The story of Congo begins with a river that moves like a giant snake through the land. Children played by its banks. Families farmed rich soil. Forests rose like green mountains, full of life and promise. Congo was a home filled with music, stories, and strong kingdoms. But one day, a shadow came from far across the sea. It came in the form of King Leopold of Belgium. He did not come with kindness or friendship. He came with a hunger for land, wealth, and power. He spoke sweet words to Europe about helping Africa, but deep inside, he wanted to own Congo like a treasure chest. He sent soldiers, traders, and men who claimed they came to teach religion and civilization. But their true mission was control. At first, the people of Congo did not understand why strangers were marking their lands and taking their resources. The drums of the villages began to change. The songs became quieter. The forest, once peaceful, filled with fear. But through the darkness, whispers of courage began to rise. Elders said, "A storm has come, but storms do not last forever." And deep inside the hearts of the people, a spark began to grow, a spark that would one day become a fire strong enough to fight for freedom. King Leopold's men built stations across Congo, each one a symbol of control. They forced people to gather rubber from vines deep in the forest. Men worked for hours, sometimes days, to meet impossible demands. Soldiers watched them with cold eyes, holding guns like chains. Every step the people took felt heavy, like the land itself was being stolen from under their feet. Religion was used as a tool. Missionaries came with crosses and holy books. They spoke of love and salvation, but many of them worked alongside Leopold's agents. They told the people that obedience was God's will, and that suffering was a path to heaven. Many Congolese were confused. They had their own beliefs, their own gods, their own stories. But they were told those stories were wrong. Still, even in fear, the spirit of Congo did not break. Secret meetings took place at night. Leaders whispered by firelight, planning ways to resist. Mothers told their children, "Remember who you are. Remember this land is ours." The river carried news from village to village. Hope traveled like wind. Congo was hurting, but it was not silent. The people were beginning to rise inside, even while they pretended to bow on the outside. Leopold never stepped foot in Congo, yet he ruled it like a king of shadows. From his palace in Belgium, he signed papers that changed lives across the ocean. He called Congo his personal property, like a man claiming a farm, not knowing it held millions of human hearts. But in Congo, the people were learning to see through the lies. They saw how their land was being stripped, ivory carried away, rubber packed into ships, forests cut down. They watched strangers gain riches while their families lived in fear. Slowly, the truth became clear: Congo was not being helped. Congo was being controlled. Young men began to speak loudly. Women encouraged their husbands, brothers, and sons. Chiefs who had once trusted the Europeans now stood firm. "We must protect our people," they said. "We must protect our home." Even some missionaries began to see the injustice. A few wrote letters to Europe, telling the truth about what was happening. These letters spread, creating noise that could not be ignored. Leopold's image began to crack. The world was starting to notice that something was wrong, very wrong. And as Congo's voice rose, the king's power slowly began to shake. The spirit of freedom was waking, and nothing could stop it. The truth about Congo traveled like fire. Reports of suffering reached Europe and America. Writers, activists, and travelers spoke openly about what they saw. Their words became louder than Leopold's lies. They described the land full of beauty being turned into a place of fear. They described people who deserved respect, not control. Pressure began to mount. Newspapers printed stories. Human rights groups formed movements. Preachers spoke in churches, telling congregations that no true faith supported cruelty. The world was waking up, and Leopold was running out of places to hide. But inside Congo, the struggle was still hard. Families held on to hope like a small flame in a storm. Every morning, people prayed for a day when they could live freely again. They dreamed of a Congo where children could laugh, where leaders could rise from their own soil, and where no foreign king could claim their land. Slowly, resistance grew stronger. Workers refused impossible demands. Villages supported each other. Secret messages moved across the region. The courage of the people became a force, steady, strong, and unshakable. Leopold felt the pressure. His kingdom of shadows was beginning to collapse. And Congo was ready for the moment when the chains would finally fall away. By the early 1900s, the world finally saw Leopold for what he was. His rule over Congo was exposed. People everywhere demanded an end to it. Cornered and embarrassed, Leopold surrendered control, but not with honesty or regret. He simply stepped back, hoping the world would forget. But Congo did not forget. Even after Belgium took over the colony, the people knew the road to real freedom was still long. Still, something powerful had changed. The people had found their voice. And once a voice rises, it cannot be silenced. Young Congolese began to study, speak, and dream of a future without foreign rulers. Leaders like Patrice Lumumba would one day rise from this spirit. Churches began to teach truth instead of fear. Families taught children about the past, not to hurt them, but to strengthen them. The people began to believe in themselves again. They believed that Congo could stand tall. They believed that freedom was not just a dream, it was a promise. And the world watched as a nation that had suffered so much started walking toward a brighter tomorrow. The storm was ending. The dawn was coming. Congo moved into a new chapter, but the scars of Leopold's rule were still deep. Families carried memories of pain, and the land carried signs of everything it had lost. But the people refused to stay broken. Like trees growing again after a wildfire, Congo's spirit pushed upward. Young people gathered in community halls, churches, and open fields. They talked about freedom and what it truly meant. They spoke about leaders chosen by the people, not sent by foreign powers. They dreamed of a Congo where everyone had a voice. These dreams spread faster than fear ever could. Belgium still ruled, but the people were changing from inside. Students read books about justice. Workers organized and demanded fair treatment. Musicians used drums and songs to spread messages of hope. Even the river seemed to carry new energy, whispering, "Rise, rise, rise." Religious leaders also played a new role. Many who once followed orders from outside began to stand with the people. They preached courage, unity, and truth. God did not create you to be silent, they said. You were created to stand tall. Hope was no longer a small spark. It was becoming a fire that warmed the whole nation. Congo was preparing for the greatest fight, the fight for independence. The drums of change grew louder. Across towns and villages, people gathered to listen to new voices, voices calling for a free Congo. Among these voices rose Patrice Lumumba, a young man with sharp eyes and powerful words. He spoke from his heart, and his words felt like thunder rolling across the land. Lumumba did not speak with anger. He spoke with truth. He told the people that Congo deserved dignity. He said Congo's land, its minerals, its rivers, and its dreams belong to the Congolese, not to any foreign king. Crowds listened with tears in their eyes. They finally had a leader who sounded like them, who understood their pain. The Belgian rulers felt the pressure. They saw a nation waking up. They tried to control the movement, but it was too late. The people had tasted hope, and they wanted more. Secret meetings grew into public marches. Songs of freedom echoed in the streets. Young men and women carried signs, raised fists, and refused to be afraid. Elders prayed and blessed the movement. Mothers told their children, "This is your future. Do not let it be stolen again." The dream of independence was now bigger than any one person. It was the heartbeat of the nation. By 1960, the world felt like it was holding its breath. Belgium realized it could not keep controlling Congo. Too many voices were rising. Too many people were watching. The pressure became too strong, and Belgium finally agreed to give Congo independence. June 30th became the day that changed everything. Crowds filled the capital. Flags were raised. Children sat on shoulders, waving small paper Congo flags. The sun shone bright, as if the sky itself was celebrating. Leaders gathered inside a grand hall, dressed in suits, ready to announce the birth of a new nation. The Belgian king spoke first. His words were cold and distant. He tried to erase the past, pretending the suffering had never happened. But then Lumumba stood up, unplanned, unexpected, unstoppable. His speech shook the room. He spoke for the people. He spoke for the pain, the loss, and the strength of Congo. He told the truth that Belgium tried to forget. He said Congo's freedom was won by the courage of its people, not the kindness of any king. The crowd outside roared with pride. For the first time in centuries, Congo stood as its own nation. The chains were broken. A new journey had begun. Freedom came like sunrise, bright, beautiful, and full of new possibilities. But just like morning clouds, challenges soon appeared. Congo had the land, the people, and the spirit, but it did not yet have peace. Powerful forces inside and outside the country wanted to control its minerals, its government, and its future. Lumumba tried to unite the nation. He traveled across regions, shaking hands, lifting spirits, and reminding people that independence was only the first step. "We must stand together," he said. "Congo must be one." But enemies moved in the shadows. Some foreign countries feared Congo's strength. Some local leaders wanted more power for themselves. Confusion and mistrust grew. Trouble stirred in the army. Political battles began. It was as if the ghost of Leopold's rule were trying to return in a new form. Still, many people believed in Congo's future. They marched, organized, and lifted their voices again. They prayed for peace. They prayed for strong leaders. They prayed for unity. The road was rocky, but Congo had walked through worse. The people remembered their history. They remembered the darkness they had survived. And they knew one thing for sure: they would never go back to chains. Congo was determined to move forward, no matter how hard the journey. Congo's path to democracy was long and painful. There were betrayals, conflicts, and years of struggle. But through every storm, the people held onto their dream, the dream of a nation that could rise, rebuild, and stand proudly among the worlds. Generations grew up hearing stories about Leopold's cruelty, Lumumba's courage, and the strength of their ancestors. These stories became lessons. They taught children to value freedom, protect their land, and never trust leaders who use fear to control. They taught them to believe in unity, truth, and justice. Over time, Congo began to heal. Schools opened. Churches taught hope instead of silence. Communities rebuilt what had been destroyed. Elections came, slowly and imperfectly, but they came. And each step forward felt like a victory earned by the people. The spirit of Congo did not break, it evolved. It became wiser, louder, and more determined. The people learned that true power does not come from kings, guns, or foreign rulers. True power comes from the hearts of a united people. Today, Congo still faces challenges, but it also carries incredible strength. The nation stands not as a victim of history, but as a survivor, a country that fought through darkness and refused to bow. Congo's story is not just about pain. It is about courage. It is about freedom. It is about rising again.